In this video, I'm going to show you how to migrate your WordPress site from any web hosting service you're using to Linode, and we are using the one-click OpenLiteSpeed app to install a LiteSpeed server. Now, the reason I'm using the OpenLiteSpeed app instead of some control panel like CyberPanel or Plesk is because I have an end goal for this setup. If you have been following my channel, you know that I'm on a mission to find the fastest and cheapest web hosting service for all of my websites. So using the OpenLiteSpeed app without using any control panel or CDN, I can test the raw power of the server, and for me to do this test, I only need one domain per server, so this setup makes sense to me. If I were to install multiple domains on one server, I may use a control panel, which will make things a lot easier. When I've identified the fastest web hosting server, that's when I will use a control panel to migrate all of my sites to that server, and I will do a separate tutorial on that. But for now, I'm publishing a series of videos documenting how I configure and install the server, so when I do the final test, you will know that the test is fair and objective. Transparency is all that I'm going for, and when the test results are out, I will leave the video link in the description. So if you're interested in following me on my journey to find the fastest web host, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification. Okay, if you are a total beginner, just take note that this is a little advanced, but I will do my best to walk you through every step of the process and explain every complicated piece of the puzzle so you will be able to migrate your WordPress site to Linode confidently. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey, this is Jack, and if this is your first time watching a video from my channel, I do a lot of WordPress tutorials focusing on site speed without sacrificing on web design. So if you want to learn how to build fast loading and beautiful WordPress sites, feel free to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification so you won't miss any of my videos. And now let's get right into it. Okay, we are on a Linode website, and the first thing we need to do is to create a free account, put in an email, username, password, and we need to activate the account. You will receive an email like this, and as you verify your account, it will bring you to the next step. Let's fill in all the billing information, and then the only payment method for Linode is through credit card. And let's create the account. Cool, let's go to the Cloud Manager. And now let's create a new Linode. And then we want to select Marketplace so that we can install WordPress and LiteSpeed. Now you might be thinking, why LiteSpeed, right? It is because LiteSpeed server serves static content faster than any types of web server, and it uses minimal resources. So when it comes to speed, having a LiteSpeed server definitely makes a difference. So we want to select this, and let's create a Linode. And then you need to select an operating system. I would choose Ubuntu. And as for the region, I will select Newark because I'm testing servers close to that location. And as for the Linode plan, I would select shared CPU, but don't get mixed up. This is not shared hosting. This is virtual private server, or VPS in short, which means that in one physical hard case server, they can have multiple VPS with each user having a dedicated space. It is unlike the shared hosting where most of the sites are hosted on a shared space. So having a private space provides more security and it should perform better. Anyway, the plan that is most compatible with other VPS services is this 1 gig plan, which costs about $5 a month and provides 25 gigs of storage space. Now, typically a big site with hundreds or thousands of posts and thousands of images will not exceed 25 gig. But if there is a lot of traffic to the site, maybe 5,000 visits per day or more, you will need more RAM. But don't worry about that, you can always scale your plan upwards later on. Anyway, for the Linode label, it is just how you name the server, whether you want it to take the name of your domain or you want it to be the name of your business. Whatever makes sense, this is just for your reference. And as for the root password, this is the password for you to enter Ubuntu to give command to your server. So you definitely want to have a strong password for this. Let's scroll down. We want to have private IP, and then let's create Linode. So we can't have spaces here. So as you can see, Linode is now creating a server space with this IP address. We need to give this a while for the server to work. In the meantime, let me show you the site we will be migrating to Linode. This site is currently hosted on SiteGround, and just to make it clear, let's segregate whatever that is on the previous server on the left, and whatever that is on the Linode server will be on the right, and in the middle we will have the neutral stuff like the testing tools, and the name registrar. So if we use the DNS checker to search for the domain, you can see that the site is currently hosted on this IP address. And if we use the Whois research tool and search for this domain, you can see the same IP address here and the name servers are from SiteGround. If you're interested in using these two tools, I've left the links in the description. Anyway, when we are done with pointing the DNS or domain name server to Linode, we will check with these two tools again to see if the server has been transferred or propagated. This is the IP address we hope to see on this DNS check. So let's go back to Linode, and as we can see, the server is now up and running. The next thing we need to do is to install WordPress. And let me expand this out a little. All you need to do to install WordPress is to click on this Launch LISH console, and this will appear. Give this a while to load because it's running some scripts in the background, and it will install WordPress and all that stuff, and we are done. Let's close this off. Let's now check if our site has WordPress installed. Let's copy this IP address, open up a new tab, and paste the IP address in. Now the question you might ask is, this is not a domain name, it is a bunch of numbers. I totally understand that. If you are not a technical person, this is the question you will probably ask. Now all web servers and domains will have an IP address that represents them. But if you have not assigned a domain name to an IP address, this is what happened. But don't worry about this, we will do this step by step. We will assign a domain name to this IP address in a while. All you need to do is just to follow this step by step and you will have a WordPress site migrated to Linode in no time. So as we can see, the OpenLiteSpeed has been installed on this IP address. And to see if WordPress is installed, let's hit /wp-admin. And we see this 404 page, which means that WordPress has not been installed properly. So let's go back to Linode, launch this console again. And now we will try to log in. By default, the login user is root. Hit enter. And as for the password, it is the same password you have created earlier. Just wait a while. And we are in. Let's enter the domain name. This is the domain name we want to transfer to Linode. So let's paste this in by hitting Ctrl V. And let's hit enter. Hit Y and enter to verify. And then now it says domain has been added in the OpenLiteSpeed listener. I think that's the key for WordPress to install. And then it is asking us if we want to install SSL. Let's hit Y and enter. Now this is common for Linode server. We'll address this in a while, but I'm pretty sure by now WordPress has been installed. Let's hit /wp-admin again, hit enter. And now we will see the WordPress page, which basically means we are almost done. We will handle this SSL certificate issue later on. Let's close this off. Now the key here is we want to install WordPress and have everything ready on this IP address. So when we assign the domain name to this IP address and point the domain name server to Linode, all the previous content, data, and your entire site will look the same, just like when you hosted it on your previous server. So there is no downtime or whatsoever. That's what we are trying to achieve here. So let's select the language and hit continue. Give a name to your site title. Create a username. And have a strong password, and provide your email address as well. And let's install WordPress. Let's log in. And cool, we are in the WordPress dashboard. And currently, this is a brand new WordPress site. Let me show you. Let us copy this IP address, open up a new tab, and hit enter. This is the default WordPress installation with the 2021 WordPress theme. And what we need to do now is to export whatever content over here from our previous server and import it to this IP address. So let's go to the back end of this site, which is currently hosted on SiteGround. Let's go to plugins and add new. Let me open this up a little. Now over at the search bar, let's search for WP Vivid. And this is the plugin we need to migrate the site for free. As you can see, I have this installed and activated. And once you have activated WP Vivid, you will see this menu item here. Let's go to backup and restore. Now over here, we want to transfer the database and files, which basically means everything. And then we want to save it on our local computer. Let's click backup now. And we need to give this a while. Once it is done, you can scroll down. And we will see this backup created. What we need to do is to download this to our computer. Let's hit download again. And save it to a computer. Once this is done, the next step is to import everything to this IP address. So let's go back to the WordPress dashboard. Let me open this up a little. And under plugins, let's add new. Let's go to the search bar and the same thing, we need to search for WP Vivid. Let's install this and activate. And now let's scroll down. Let's click on upload. Now we need to drop the file we have just downloaded. So let me drag it in. And then let's hit upload. And then we want to give this a while for the upload to complete. And when this is done, let's click on restore. Let's continue. Give this a while again. And this is done. Now the reason you're seeing this page is because we have not installed an SSL certificate for this IP address, because we need to first point the domain name server to Linode before we can install the SSL. So don't worry about this. Let's advance and accept the risk because we know it is safe. And let's log in. And now let me show you something. Previously it was this default WordPress install. Now let's refresh this. And you will see these two websites looking identical. And that's what we need. So let's go back to the WordPress backend for this IP address and let's remove some unnecessary plugins. We will probably need Akismet. We don't need this all-in-one WP migration. We don't need this, Jetpack as well. We definitely need LiteSpeed Cache. Otherwise, what's the point of setting up a LiteSpeed server, right? And then we don't need SiteGround Optimizer because we are not hosting the domain on SiteGround anymore. We can deactivate the security as well. And then again, let's delete all these unnecessary plugins. And here we go. Let's activate LiteSpeed Cache. Cool. And there is one more thing we need to do, which is to go to settings and under general, you see the WordPress address URL is now pointing to the IP address. Eventually, we will want this to be pointed to the domain. So let's copy this domain and let's place it here. The same thing goes for the site address. Now, here's the thing. Once I save this, if you log into this website again, you will go to the back end of the previous server because you have not pointed your domain name server yet. Let me show you. Let's save changes. And then immediately you'll be logged out. And as you log in again, you'll see that you're back to SiteGround. And remember, you have deleted SiteGround in the previous step. Now, don't worry about this. Once you point the domain name server over to Linode, give it a while, and you will go to the back end from the new server. So don't worry about this. We just need to know that we already have all that we need to transfer the server to Linode without any downtime. Now, all that's left is to point these name servers to Linode. So to do that, let's go to Linode. Under domains, we want to create a domain. We want to copy this domain, place it here, put in an email address, and then over here, we want to insert default records from one of our Linodes. And then let's select the Linode we have created and let's create the domain. So these are our name servers. And if you understand a record, it is basically saying that this domain has been assigned with this IP address. And all we need to do is to copy this name server to our domain registrar. I'm using Namecheap, by the way. And if we scroll down, you will see this custom DNS. As you can see, this is from SiteGround. We need to replace it with Linode's name servers. And then let's hit save. And the propagation starts. It will probably take up to 48 hours for the migration process to complete. But in the meantime, we can start installing the SSL certificate. Let me open this up a little. And the procedure for this is to go to Linodes, which is where you have created your server. Let's click into it. And the same thing, we need to launch LISH console. So for now, we want to exit. And then we want to re-log in so the whole process can restart again. So let's type in root and then the password you have created. Then let's enter the domain name and hit enter. Hit Y and enter to verify. And then hit Y and enter to install your certificate, and the problem still persists. Honestly, you just need to give it some time, maybe an hour or two, and then you come back here to restart the process again. You should be able to install SSL after some time.
A few moments later.
Okay, it is almost 2 hours. Let's launch this again. Let's log into root, enter a password, enter a domain name, hit Y and enter to verify, and hit Y again to install SSL, and cool, the domain is now accessible. Takes about 2 hours for my case. Maybe yours will be a little faster. And then next you want to enter an email address and hit enter. Y to verify the email address, and then the certificate is installed. Now we want to enforce the HTTPS for this domain. So hit Y and enter. Let's update the web server as well. And we're done. We have installed the SSL certificate and we have enforced HTTPS. Now we can close this off. The next thing is we want to test if the domain name server has been pointed to Linode. So on the DNS checker, let's search. And as you can see, in some countries it is still pointing to SiteGround. And if we use the Whois tool and search for it again, we can see that it is still on SiteGround. But don't worry about that, just let it take its time to migrate.
6.5 hours later.
And we are back. It's time for us to log into the WordPress backend and make some adjustments to the LiteSpeed settings so that our site will be blazing fast. Now, do you remember on our previous server, which was SiteGround, we had the SG optimizer installed, and on our new Linode server, we had replaced SiteGround's plugins with the LiteSpeed Cache plugin? Here we go. We have the LiteSpeed Cache installed here, which means that we are already on the new server. And if we go to plugins, we can see that there are no SiteGround plugins. Now let's do some initial configuration of the LiteSpeed Cache. Remember, you should only make adjustments when you can verify that you are on the new server. For my case, I use the SiteGround plugins as the indicator. Anyway, under LiteSpeed Cache and general settings, if you want to use the Quick Cloud CDN, you can request a domain key here. There are some other settings to be done, but I will not cover it in this video. And as for the guest mode, let's turn this on. The guest optimization, let's keep this on as well. And then let's save changes. Next, let's go to cache. These are all turned on by default, but we need to manually turn this cache mobile on. And let's save changes. For TTL, we don't need to do anything. The purge as well. And as for the object cache, if you are seeing your connection test as failed, just take note that it will take some time and you don't need to do anything about it. I'm pretty sure by the time your DNS is propagated, you get a pass on the connection test. So don't worry about this. Next, let's go to browser. Nothing to change here. And under advanced and HTTPS compatibility, let's turn this on. We'll skip the CDN. And then we go to image optimization. Let's go to this image optimization settings. Let's turn this on so that the image optimization settings will automatically be applied. Now, as for this remove original backups, when LiteSpeed optimizes an image, they actually create a separate image for the optimization, leaving the original as a backup. So every optimized image will have two versions. Checking this on means LiteSpeed will remove the original version of the image, leaving only the optimized version on your server. The benefit for this is for your site to take up less resources, but the downside to this is in any case, if you need the original version again, you will not have it anymore. This is suitable for larger sites, but this is really up to you. You always have the option to keep an original image on your local computer rather than having it take up space on the server. So for me, I will turn this on. Now by default, the image optimization method is lossless, which in my opinion is the best compression method. But if you decide to choose losslessly, this will improve the quality of the image, but it will not save on the image size. So for me, I will keep this off. Then for the WebP image format, let's create them by default and we want to display them on our site. Let's save changes. Next, let's go to page optimization. Let's midify CSS. Now, I don't like to combine CSS because if any CSS codes are flagged by Google PHP Insights or other tools, I want to know what exactly are the issues. And if you turn this on, all you see is a combined CSS file with no indication which is the cause of the issue. So I'll keep this off. These are for CDN. I will not cover it in this video. For this, let's turn this on. These settings are for the CDN as well. And as for the font display optimization, if you are using multiple Google fonts, I would prefer the swap method. So in case the Google font did not load on time, there will always be a web safe font display. And when the Google font has loaded, it will be swapped. So let's save changes. And then let's go to JS settings. Let's midify JavaScript. And again, I don't like to combine CSS or JavaScripts. We want to turn this on. And as for the load.js deferred, my preferred method is deferred. If you don't understand what this means, feel free to check out the video at the top right. I've given a walkthrough on Google PHP Insights, and in it, I have given detailed explanation on both the JS deferred methods. So let's save changes. Let's go to the HTML settings. Again, let's midify HTML. I want to remove query strings, load Google Fonts asynchronously, remove WordPress emoji because this will slow down your website, and let's save changes. Let's go to media settings. We want to lazy load images, turn on the responsive placeholder. I want to turn on lazy load for iframes so that my YouTube embedded videos will not load unless clicked upon. This will greatly boost page speed. And then add missing sizes so that we can reduce the cumulative layout shift, which is part of the core web vitals. And then we want to turn this on because this will generally make the site faster. And let's save changes. Let's go to media excludes. Now, just in case you are using background images or images that appeared above the fold, you don't want to lazy load them because it might hinder the Google PageSpeed score. So in that case, you want to identify the image URL and paste the URL here. Let's save changes. And let's go to localization. Now, if your site allows for comments, you can store the gravatar locally if you turn this on. Gravatar is basically the profile image of the commenter. Now, the downside to this is there is a high chance that the gravatar may not appear. So it is really up to you to play around with this setting. For me, I will leave it as it is. And let's save changes. Let's go to tuning. And I believe that is all for the configuration of the LiteSpeed Cache. So now if we go to the website, we have switched the web host from the SiteGround to Linode without any downtime. And that's basically it. I hope this tutorial is simple enough for you to migrate your WordPress site to Linode. Please give a thumbs up if you find this video helpful. And as I've said earlier in this video, this is part of the documenting process to eventually do speed comparisons between different web hosts. And when the results are out, I'll be posting it on the right and the link will be in the description as well. Thank you for watching. Take care. And as always, stay safe.